potential work to be done, both in the core protocol and in terms of new utility on top of the blockchain itself that will help to bring new life to the Terra Classic blockchain. And I think we all feel that Terra Rebels wants to be front and center as part of those activities.
Okay. All right. So yeah, obviously once we get the governance going, it's a matter of bringing validators from the first system over to this new system. How many do we need? How many do we think we have? How close are we?
You want to take this one, Ed?
Sure. So we do have, I guess, towards the validator outreach, there are other members of the team that that's sort of their primary focus right now. And so I don't know, I hear from him. And so what he has told me, the last number that I've heard was 46% of the validators are on board. That's of the voting power. And so I guess this does sort of beg some explanation. Each validator, okay, so blocks on the blockchain, they're generated about every 6 seconds, and then one validator out of the set, and right now we have 90 in the active set. One validator puts forward a block, says these are the transactions that have happened in the past 6 seconds. Everyone, please take a look and make sure that this is correct according to your own code. So they all sort of look at the block, they run the transactions, and they come up with this hash, which is just like a string of numbers that represents all the transactions that have happened. And they put forth that hash, and everyone sort of checks the hashes to make sure they're all the same. And so what happens is they all have voting power based upon the amount of staked Luna that they either have self-delegated or other people have delegated to them. And that voting power sort of represents how much vote they have in this they call this consensus mechanism. And so if a minority, let's say like less than 1/3 of the validators put forth a block hash that doesn't match everybody else, then they will be essentially, that block will be rejected. And if they continue to do that, they'll be jailed, which is mean they can no longer participate in the voting process. If it's between 1/3 and 2/3 of the voting power, that's a critical point, because at this point, the other validators on the system say something really is wrong here, because more than 1/3 of you are telling me that this is the hash. We're just going to stop. And so the whole chain is just going to halt. And then they go into this loop, and this loop goes on forever until something happens. Either the one group sort of redoes the checks of the transactions and puts forth the right hash, and at the point that 2/3 of the voting power put forth the same hash, that is when the chain will start to move again, and new blocks will be created. And then the ones that haven't, that still are putting forth the old hash, they're going to get slashed and jailed, and they won't be able to participate anymore. So the number here is we need 1/3 of the voting power of the validators to halt the chain. And this is going to, essentially, it's going to force like a standoff, right? Because we have 46 right now. If this goes in at this very moment, if this goes in with 46% of the voting power, the chain's going to halt. And this is not unusual, because if we go back to whatever, May 11th, May 12th, when the whole DPEG thing happened, what TFL did was put out a patch that disabled staking and delegation, and they said everybody needs to run this right now. And then 1/3 of the voting power ran it, and the chain halted. And the chain was halted for, I want to say it was like almost 2 days, or maybe it was a little bit less than 2 days. where everyone was just waiting for validators to pick up the new code and install it and run it on their system. And so this idea of halting is, I mean, this is essentially how it's been done in the past. They put out code, and for the most part, they have at least 1/3, and then if they have 2/3, the transition is smooth. If they have less than 2/3, then a halt has happened.
I appreciate you breaking that down that way, because I think a lot more people can understand it that way. You know, not everybody's a blockchain specialist, or, you know, you guys throw acronyms out sometimes, and, you know, it's like, I don't know, you ever see the Charlie Brown cartoons where the parents are wah 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 wah, right? That's how it comes off sometimes. So I appreciate the way you broke that down. After all the work that you've done, and you've really come a long way, can somebody from TFL just kind of step in and say, thanks guys, we'll take it from here, and just take the thing over again?
Basically, I would say yes, they could, but at the end of the day, our mission was never to be the ones driving the car. We became the ones driving the car by accident. If, and I think we've said this multiple times, if Do Kwon and TFL came back and assumed responsibility and stepped up to the plate and started doing things to restore governance, then we would have no problem with that. Because then inherently we would still have succeeded, right? Our goal is to fix the change.
You made them do it, yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. All right, I understand that. You're not trying to take over the chain. I got that. You're coming up with workarounds to kind of strong arm them, I guess, into doing the right thing, adopting the new code. Has anything like this ever been done before?
I would say there's one precedent with regards to EOS that decided to kick Block 1 out of the consensus body and basically take over. And we are looking a lot at their sort of history and what they did to sort of basically establish a constitution that amounts to an end user license agreement for all parties working with the chain, and ensuring distributed governance is fair, and basically rebuilding their ecosystem after that particular incident. So you could say that their developers didn't leave, they were asked to leave in one way or the other, right? So I guess that is the only real precedent we have in this case.
So I've got weird ways of looking at things, right? What you guys are doing basically is, as you say, not taking over someone else's, blockchain, manipulating it, doing some certain things. I mean, I look at you guys like the kind of the Robin Hoods of blockchain, right? Because what you're doing, I mean, I don't know how ethical it really is, right? Going into somebody else's thing and totally changing it around. But the reason that you're doing it is obviously very moral, okay? A lot of people lost their shirt on this one. And what you're doing is not only going to help, new investors, but potentially help a lot of people who lost a lot on that crash, maybe to recoup a little something, okay? But I mean, am I right? It's kind of like computer hackery kind of stuff, right?
Well, I think you have to look at the history of blockchain development since the beginning of Bitcoin. All of this has been based off open source. Pretty much all of the blockchain technologies run under Apache 2 licenses. And I think this is one of the reasons why Matt and Ed and myself had such an easy time getting together. We're all used to working in open source ecosystems. I've been doing it for years. Most of the code I produce at work, I produce as open source on GitHub, so anybody can review the code that goes into my company's business systems and so on. We live and breathe open source, so it becomes sort of natural for us to do that. Okay. And that's also why I don't think there's any real ethical concerns here in that sense, because I mean, at some point we're just helping these guys fix the problem because they're not here to do it.
Yeah. I mean, Do Kwon said he's going to help out in any way that he can, right? Have we heard anything from him? I mean, I know that you said that, you know, there are some people over at TFL that, you know, their names will go unmentioned, but they're kind of helping out. Have we heard anything from the top guy other than that tweet?
Not to my knowledge, but
I
I
haven't
also
heard.
have the opinion
really.
that he probably can't really speak to the public that much due to whatever legal
stuff.
backlash he's currently focusing. So quite frankly, I just have empathy for his situation. I think he tried to do something that he thought was smart. It backfired. This happens. It was unfortunate. But right now he's probably in a situation where he can't do a lot. And that's just how it is, I think.
I was actually kind of surprised he even came up with the tweets he came out with for that very reason. I thought he would have been a lot quieter about things. So I was surprised when I saw him come out and say the things that he said. I wonder if that was actually against advice or whatever, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, can I jump in on that? Because like it's been interesting where in the beginning when we started this, we were reaching out constantly at you know, across many different channels to get some sort of response, and it's only been recently that we've been getting you know, some communication lines open, and these are like to people who talk to Do Kwon. This is not like, you know, some like they were present during this, you know, the DPEG event. They were active in trying to save the chain, and now, you know, we've been able to open up lines of communication. And what's surprising to me is like they're telling us like, oh yeah, we talked to Do Kwon, blah blah blah, and then they're saying to us, but hey, you know, here's a little patch that you should do. And so it signals to me that like, well, why don't you just, you know, to me it's like, well, why don't you just do it yourself instead of giving it to us? And so that's sort of a, I guess a flag that, you know what, we can't, where something is holding us back. We cannot touch this chain. Here you go, type of thing. So
yeah. All right. I had a question from someone on Twitter. All right. I'm going to read to you guys, and any one of you can pick it up if you want. Because I had put out a Twitter and asked, hey, if anybody has any questions, anything that you could ask, what would you ask? And I got a question from Hoplite. You guys might be familiar with. It says, I guess if I were going to ask one question on the behalf of the community, I would ask, how is the Terra Rebels DAO doing? Is official custody for LUNC with the DAO in works from our TFL contacts, or just a semi-permanent stewardship?
I think I'll let Matt answer this question.
Yeah, I think that's just a misunderstanding of what the purpose of our DAO is. Our DAO has got nothing to do with custody of the blockchain or Terra Classic. Our DAO is about how we run Terra Rebels itself as a decentralized organization. So once we get beyond this period of voluntary work and we move forward beyond to start creating value on top of the blockchain, we need to have a legal structure where we can operate as an organization, and people who want to continue operating with us will work in collaboration with that operation through a DAO, and the DAO will ensure that all members of the Terra Rebels organization will get to vote on the way that Terra Rebels is run and operated and the decisions that are made through a governance structure similar to the Terra Classic blockchain, but its purpose is purely for deciding on how Terra Rebels itself is operated. And we would hope to be able to build that DAO, the technology behind that DAO, on top of the Terra Classic blockchain itself as a smart contract.
So you guys have the intention of moving from a group of volunteers who are doing this to some sort of more official, structured, organization in some form?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
If I can pitch
ahead.
into this a bit, I think a lot of our developers and tech people, they're enterprise people. And we're looking at saying, if we can fix this platform and restore governance, then we can start building a whole lot of enterprise-focused software that will enable enterprises to also start contributing to building value. So looking at stuff like targeting whatever chipsets directly for metaverses, so people can do like LUNC-based derivatives inside metaverses fairly easily. Building out Kubernetes offerings that will make big companies have a lot easier time spinning up validators if they want to run, a lot of validator nodes and so on. And providing all sorts of other value-added services on top of the ecosystem that will attract businesses into this sort of community and start building the value. Because my personal belief is that the next bull market will be sort of the business bull market. And we need to be positioned to cater to this. And this is why we need to heal the community. We need to find some solid market makers. We need to get our act together and present a professional front to the world. Then we can start participating in the competition and move from the status of meme coin back up to, a top 20 something, and maybe start making an actual impact on the world itself.
Well, we've got a lot of help, right? A lot of people jumping in, coining, Metagloria. The lunatic token guys just burned, right before we got on, just burned 50 million LUNC, right? The 2 days they've been an actual token, and they're jumping in and doing that kind of work. So yeah, there's a lot of community support. How are we doing with getting different businesses and stuff to come back and want to jump on this new software?
Well, we've set up a few teams to manage the communication with the DApp developers, and I think we have a list of 35 to 40 projects ranging from various NFT ideas to people wanting to build digital banks to people building, space, Starship, whatever, games. Mm-hmm. And all of these are, basically looking to add value to the chain. So as soon as we have fixed governance and fixed the platform, we will pivot to try and advise and help them as much as we can, depending on where they are, to ensure that we start getting some value in, because we still have a bit of a, let's call it, debt burden in the system that we need to burn through. And the only way to do that is really to attract new investors, right? I mean, the current investors can sit around and fight over governance all day long. But if we don't bring new investors in, then we can't burn out the remaining bad debt and start to stabilize the system. And this is why it's so important to fix governance and get the ball rolling on that.
Yeah. Okay. Look a little bit into the future, right? I want to ask a question. We get governance going. Everything that you set out to accomplish, you feel like you pretty much accomplished. Obviously, other things always come up, like you said, but pretty much you're there, okay? Everything's working. It's getting back on its feet. Mm-hmm. You guys go off into the sunset back to your old lives, or do you hang around and keep an eye on this thing, be it's, whatever you want to call it, but, keep it running. Do you stay?
I think, obviously, from an individual point of view, that question will depend on the individual. But from a Terra Rebels point of view, I think we can say that Terra Rebels is not going anywhere. Terra Rebels is there now for Lunar Classic and intends to be there for the long term.
I mean, in the way of being like the new TFL kind of thing? I mean, is that... No.
We don't want to be characterized in that way. We've avoided that, and we've clarified that at every opportunity that we are not the new TFL. And the reason being is that in the TFL model, TFL had a significant degree of control over the blockchain through validator nodes that it directly controlled or indirectly controlled, and through the fact that it was the only body that could provide software updates into the ecosystem. and I mean core protocol software updates. We have demonstrated now that a third-party software team can come along and build their own test net, build their own software updates, test them to the point that everybody can be confident that those software updates can be deployed into the mainnet without causing any issues in the blockchain, which means that in the future, other software teams could come along and also offer their services to build or make changes to the core protocol. If Terra Rebels can do it, anybody can do it. And this is where we see the future for Terra Classic as a truly community owned and run blockchain. There is no overarching entity or organization which has control. The control is exhibited by the community through the governance system.
Beautiful. All right. One of the other questions that I got quite often from the Twitter replies was about where this thing can go. And, I had to clarify that I don't think anybody's going to give a prediction. There's no point in doing that. Okay. But so let me ask it to you this way and see if you feel like this is a question you can answer. You guys are, and I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible for the non-technical people out there, okay? You guys are fixing this in a way that it will not collapse the way it did the first time, okay? The problems that existed the first time, you're circumventing those and fixing it in a way that doesn't happen again, correct?
The mechanism that actually caused the DPEG event is already disabled. It was disabled by TFL, and what we're doing doesn't reactivate that at this stage. And as we previously mentioned, we're looking at future solutions to that, the V2 algo, which will have to go through rigorous testing, rigorous reviews, obviously through the community governance system as well. Before any new solution to having a repeg of USTC to the dollar or to some other value before that could be achieved. So the immediate work that we're doing now there's no way that there could be any repeat of the DPEG because there is no peg, and what we're doing doesn't at this stage doesn't try to restore that peg.
Okay. So, which leads me into the actual question that the community has, at least the investing community. At one point, before this crash, Luna, what it previously was, the original Luna version 1, had reached $119 a coin, something like that, right? Before the crash, it was $80 something, maybe a coin. Then we saw it go down quite a bit, 4 zeros and 1 6. Where is it today? It's been hovering around 4 zeros 9, 3 zeros 1. It's right around there. Yeah, still
somewhere around there. Yeah, 4 zeros 1. I think something like that. Yeah.
Why? Here's the question, and it might sound like a silly question, but it's a question I keep getting a lot. Why, if we are fixing this thing and hopefully making it better than it was, why are we looking at expectations of, well, maybe we can get to a penny? Oh, $1 is crazy. Why are we looking at such low numbers when, if we're fixing it better than it was, this thing used to be up to 119 bucks?
It's a factor of the minting of Luna that happened during the DPEG. So we now have a total supply of something like 6.9 trillion Luna, and that obviously when you go from, what was it, 300 and something million Luna to 6.9 trillion Luna, then the value of each individual coin is diluted massively, and that's the effect that you see in the price.
But what, Matthew, with all these burn initiatives and the community is still strong and everything that you guys are doing, what if we get it back down to 100? What if we get it back down to close to where it was? I think 3568 called for what? To get it down to like 10 billion? Is that what, something like that?
I think if I can offer some perspective on this, I think that
Sure.
the problem in a nutshell is that right now all the tokens are distributed between a fairly limited amount of holders, right? It's maybe like 100 wallets that owns the majority of the tokens. These guys will be incentivized to hold on to them for as long as possible. That means that even once we start restoring the swapping mechanism, if we can fix the algorithm, you know, once business comes in, that'll push up price a bit, but then they will start selling into that sort of uptrend. And that will keep price increases suppressed for a while, because we basically have to burn through somewhere around $10 billion worth of debt. As soon as we do that, we will see quite an interesting reversal, not unlike what Do Kwon actually hinted at one point, if I'm not mistaken, where we will see that Luna or LUNC could basically go to you know, higher than potentially $100 if enough money came into a newly pegged system that had a swap feature like the one that was built, right? But it's just going to take a lot of time, because a lot of tokens were printed. People are going to hold on to them to sell. They're not really being activated for business reasons, so that the capital isn't really flowing around in the system. And that makes the capital system less frictionless, so to speak, which means that it will take some time to burn through this before it becomes more frictionless and more efficient as an actual cash system. And once this happens, then price will start going up. And if more business comes in, then yeah, I mean, eventually we could beat the all-time high, but it won't happen if you know, everybody's sitting on 1 billion tokens for waiting for $1. Then it'll just be another Doge moment where we'll go to something and then we'll crash back down to whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess the obvious question from that is, what's going on with CZ and all of what he's holding? What do you think he's holding it for? I asked the same question to the Lunatics token guys, and they had the same expression on their face that Ed has right now. But what do you make of that? What do you make of all of that he's holding, and what's his plan?
I guess you're referencing to the Binance wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, in general, most sixes, they have a hot and a cold wallet for all user funds. So the Binance wallet is not CZ's wallet. It is the sum of all user LUNC on Binance. It's the biggest exchange on the planet. Makes sense. They have a large amount of the tokens on store. And this is also why it will take some time to get to $1, because all of these are basically investors, right? And they might not necessarily be long-term holders, but that's something that we're also trying to encourage them to become. Because at the end of the day, if we can flip some of these trader whales to long-term holders and help, or make them help build out the ecosystem, then that will also help the overall, you know, state of things, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I've seen you guys get that question a lot in the Discord, and I've seen Zarada answer it the way he just answered it. But not everybody's in the Discord, so I wanted to give you the opportunity to cool, get that out to everybody else, and that's awesome. I appreciate it. I don't know if you guys want to speak on this or not. I'll leave it up to you. You know, there's some weird stuff floating around with maybe what I would classify as maybe conspiracy theories, rumors, negativity, FUD, whatever you want to call it. And I know you know what do you want to address that at all?
Well,
I mean,
yeah, you go ahead, Matt.
Okay, I was just going to say that, you know, welcome to the internet.
Yeah, I was going to say the literal same thing.
I think, you know, when a group of people get together and try to do something good, there will always be detractors from that. And you know, no matter how good your motives are, no matter how much you try to present your actions in a positive and transparent light, there will be people who don't trust what you're doing for whatever reason. And you know, where we see blatant publication of misinformation, we do our best to counter that by publishing the correct facts. but where it's just kind of typical internet fudding, we just try not to engage with it, is our policy.
And if I can add a bit to that, please.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I
go
think
ahead.
it's
Zerda.
also to, I mean, we try to do as Matt stated, but we also try to advise and help people and spread the truth when we can, because at the end of the day, we have to understand that a lot of the LUNC holders, they're essentially pretty traumatized. Some of them lost a lot of money. Yeah. It is perfectly natural for them to be upset, and I mean, all of us in Terra Rebels are professionals. We've all tried having a pissed off customer who had a bad day, you know, and we try to treat it as such. Sometimes these things escalate a bit. We try to put whatever time we can into to helping people. And if we can't help them, we try to just disengage to not, you know, make their situation any worse or any different. And then we focus on trying to fix the things that we can fix, because I mean, we know we can't save everybody, right? That's not our intention. Our intention is to fix the platform and then enable everybody to save themselves, because that's really how life works at the base layer.
Yeah. I think particularly in a market like this, a lot of the community is a bit jaded, maybe from some other development teams that might not be doing the best thing for the community, and maybe doing some things more for themselves than anybody else, you know, which will go unnamed. I don't think we even need to name, because I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, so, you know, people are jaded, people are cautious. I get that part of it, okay? But I see you guys putting your faces out there. I see you doxed. You know, we know about you. I see you taking of your life, you know, where you could be spending it with your family and, you know, out doing whatever hobbies, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. And it's been, what, a couple months now? It seems like it's got to be every spare moment you guys have, you're working on this. Yeah. And I've talked to some of you guys who really aren't getting a lot of sleep. Everybody's filling different roles. I mean, when I see the negativity, I try to understand it from a certain perspective, from the perspective coming from whoever it is that's kind of spewing the negativity. But I also don't really understand it on a bigger level, because how can we look at what you guys are doing, what you're even doing today, and what you've done in the past, and have any question about the intentions, and not have and have really anything but appreciation for what you've accomplished. I personally wasn't invested before the crash. I'm one of those guys who said, I wish, you know, I was invested before the crash, because some people got in really low and, you know, made a killing, and then, you know, like, okay, they got screwed, but here's a second chance at it. So, you know, now I'm invested. And if it stays where it is, I'm not going to make any money. I'm an investor. That's what I'm in this for. But if it goes up, if the price goes up, I'm going to do okay. And you guys are the guys who are responsible for that. It's going to be an unbelievable wait. So I appreciate you. I think a majority of the community appreciates you. Yeah, you're not going to make everybody happy. I mean, what can you really do about that?
If I can offer some perspective on that, first of all, I mean, sure, we appreciate the appreciation. But I also think, you know, we're in it for—
I know how much you love praise, Arda.
Personal reasons, right? I started my journey into blockchains at the end of 2015. I worked for a bank. I saw how corrupt that system was. And I, you know, decided that maybe this technology was a way to fundamentally alter one of the most important things in our society, which is our money system, and create an open, decentralized, transparent, and honest flow of money. And I have proof of work for this that dates back to 2016. So I can actually, you know, prove that the intentions that I try to instill in Terra Rebels date back to that path. Because for me, everything I do is basically you know, a work of affection. I put in the hours because I want to make the world a better place, and my reward in that is getting to try to do that. That in itself is quite a remarkable thing to try to do. I don't claim to be any sort of special person or better than anybody else, but that is what I want to spend my life on, because quite frankly, I think we have to change the way crypto and blockchain works. We've had a long time of egos and capitalism and all of this, but now we need empathy and compassion. And we need to build an ecosystem with organic, healthy growth, where people are not malicious or predatory, but where they're working together to change the world, quite frankly. Because I believe that blockchains and crypto have the capacity to do that and are doing that every day. But right now, blockchains is in sort of an existential fight about whether or not it's going to be Swift 2.0 owned by Wall Street, or it's going to be this open, transparent money market for everyone. And for me, Terra Rebels is very much in the business of the latter, to ensuring that it's the people who own the future money system and not the, you know, super rich.
I mean, that was one hell of a speech.
I've given it a lot of times for a lot of investors over the years.
Very sweet.
Maybe I can jump into here.
Go ahead, Ed.
Because like when I look back at these past 2 months, my behavior is completely irrational. And let me, I have a story, because like, you know, a couple of years ago, I got my credit card bill, and it was like a $5 charge from Amazon Web Services from when I was at my old job. And I called them up, and I mean, the long story short was like, I couldn't cancel this. I couldn't get my money back for like this $5 charge. And I spent, I don't know, maybe like 20 hours on the phone with Amazon, with my old employer, with the credit card companies, trying to get this right. And I was like, this is not even worth it. This is like $5. This is not worth it. And then like my wife is like, no, you went this is about the principle, right? You went this far, just see it through. And then this whole thing happened with Luna Classic, and it's completely irrational. And I'm spending like, you know, 80 hours a week trying to fix this thing. But it's really about the principle. It's like, this is what happened was wrong. The crypto space, this is rug pull after rug pull. And like the principle of it is like, this is a place that I found that I can make a difference, make an impact. And there's like, it's not just my wife that's saying, just keep going. It's like 5,000 people on Discord, you know, saying, you know, this is right. This is what needs to happen. And so, yeah, so that's what's driving me right now. It's completely irrational. I agree, but it's the principle of it. This needs to happen.
Yeah. What is that feeling going to be like when this actually works? Everything that, you know, everything comes to fruition, all the culmination of all the hard work, when you can actually put your feet up and say, we did it.
I know what I'm going to do.
What's that going to,
I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to sit under a tree in a forest and touch the grass.
Some of us got that. That's awesome. Listen, thank you so much, guys, for being here. Is there anything else that you wanted to get out to the community before I let you go that we haven't covered yet?
Oh, I think we're good. I'm tired, so it's fine by me too.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's late where you guys are, right? It's going to be 10, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Awesome. I'm going to let you go. I really, really appreciate you being here. There's quite a few people in the chat. Unfortunately, I'm not good enough to talk to you and get to that at the same time, but we'll get a little better with it as we go. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Everybody can go to the Discord. I'm going to link all that in the description, that you can go and talk to these guys directly. You know, you don't have to wait for them to come online or whatever. They're there. Somebody's there all the time, because everyone is in all different time zones. So anytime you go on and ask a question, there's usually somebody there that's going to answer you. Yeah, we appreciate you. That's the last thing I have to say. So thanks for being here. Have a great night.
Have a good evening. Bye.
All right,
Bye.
guys.
Okay, folks, so that was pretty interesting, wasn't it? I felt like there wasn't much really answered or asked. It was really strange. As to them getting the exclusive, or DJ Trev getting the exclusive, I've asked them for so long since this all started, and yeah, hopefully we'll be getting our one later this week. So yeah, catch all you folks then. Stay safe, and we'll catch you in the next stream. Ciao for now.